and then just buy the game. Just buy it. I need the money to track down my half-brother Antonio before he kills again.
This week in game news, Mark Zuckerberg posted a picture on Facebook from the Mobile World Congress, and fearmongers are declaring it dystopic. Momodora, Reverie Under the Moonlight's coming out March 4th. Punch Club crossed 2 million in sales and will be getting free DLC in the Darkest expansion. Pokemon Sun and Moon were announced. Lawn management game Legend of Kusakari was announced for the 3DS. Blood Alloy Reborn is now coming out March 2nd, and the music that you're hearing was provided by YouTuber Tube Soccer using free Teenage Engineering Pocket Operators. Also, we're giving away some Sega games that Sega was giving away. In case you missed their giveaway, stick around for our giveaway and details on how to enter. This is the Blackman and Robin Game News Update. First off, regarding that new Pokemon game, during a special Pokemon Direct held on Friday, Tsunekazu Ishihari, president of the Pokemon Company, presented a brief look back at Pokemon history. February 27, 2016 marks 20 years of Pokemon. That day in 1996, the first Pokemon game was released in Japan. We have the latest trailer for Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, which is coming to the 3DS Holiday 2016. Enjoy!
Celebrating all Pokemon trainers. '96, 1999, 2002, 2006, 2010, 2013, and in 2016. It all comes together in an all-new Pokemon adventure. Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon.
That's not all, however. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow have been re-released on the eShop for the Nintendo 3DS. These new versions of Red, Blue, and Yellow will allow you to transfer Pokemon into your Pokemon Bank and play with them in Sun and Moon.
Thank you for watching.
Two kingdoms at the crossroads of war. For peace in Hoshido and the glory of Nor. At the epicenter of this conflict stands a young royal named Corrin.
Last week, Fire Emblem Fates was released in the United States. In case you're unfamiliar with the Fire Emblem series, what you should know is that it's a series of fantasy strategy RPGs that's been on Nintendo systems for the last quarter-century. For the most part, the 3DS release of Fates has gone swimmingly. The game's been well received by fans and critics and is overall quite fun. That said, some players aren't satisfied with the game because it either excludes elements that were present in the Japanese version or changes them in ways that go far beyond translation. A change that's had many fans up in arms is the removal of a minigame that involves touching a character's face using the 3DS's touchscreen and stylus in order to build affection and improve your relationship with a given character. In the Japanese version of the game, the minigame was optional because, let's be honest, not everybody wants to rub an anime girl's face with a plastic pen to make her say I love you. Back on point, however, The removal of this element has led some players to cry censorship at Fates, and refuse to purchase it. Personally, I'm not sure why this element of the game was removed, since touching a face really isn't offensive, and I can't imagine it bumping up the game's rating. That said, I'm not the most familiar with Fire Emblem since I'm stuck halfway through Awakening. I decided to ask some fans of the series what they thought about the changes over on Reddit and vote. On Vote, user Namrock said that the series has had a long history of being censored for references to alcohol, religion, and violence, but that these didn't hurt the essence of the game. Namrock then went on to claim that SJWs, or social justice warriors, are responsible for having games censored, but, like the changes of old, we'll look back and realize that some of the minor things changed on account of social pressure weren't really big deals. For Fates, however, he says that the localization process has been invasive, changing the nature of numerous characters, and that while the story's mostly intact, the company in charge of localization has dropped the ball on account of not only trying to localize language and culture, but morality. Meanwhile, on the Fire Emblem subreddit, the overall consensus is that much of the localization of Fire Emblem Fates is decent, but not perfect. Redditor Ztox says, removed content is removed content, no matter how little or how much, and that some folks really wanted the features that were cut, even though they were largely optional parts of the game. Redditor Twilight Dusk brought out that while the localization's generally fine, there were some glaring misses, such as Baruka and Saizo's C-rank support conversation being replaced with a joke in which the conversation is just a series of ellipses between the characters. Yeah. Finally, Redditor Erislet had a whole lot to say about the localization with an incredibly in-depth look at what has been changed. Specifically, that the dialogue in the translation was natural and had good flow, and in some ways improves upon the original game. What this person says is that the most glaring problems are that the changes made to many of the characters in the game, such as one female character being changed to be more butch and less cute, while a couple other characters are changed into copies of characters from Awakening. Erislet had a lot to say about the subject, and we invite you to take a look at the thread for what this person has contributed to the conversation. Erislet, we thank you, and indeed we at Blackman and Robin thank everybody who has contributed. We've only talked about some of the changes made to the North American version of Fates. Some other cut features include changes made to bathing suits, the lack of an option for Japanese voiceovers, and changes regarding various characters' love interests. To see all the changes, I recommend checking out the Reddit and vote threads that I mentioned a moment ago. What do you think about the changes? Would you consider all the changes to be a form of censorship? Will you be installing the fan patch to restore the missing content? Hit us up at Blackman and Robin on Twitter, and let us know what you think. Personally, I wouldn't consider all the changes that have been made to the game censorship. While I do think that some of the ideas that they had for the translation of the game were bad, such as the total removal of the C-rank support conversation for Saizo and Baruka, most of the issues with the game aren't really something I'd consider to be censorship. That said, some aspects of what has happened to Fire Emblem Fates do seem to lean a bit closer to what's known as bowdlerization.
It's a choice that can only be made on the front lines.
In game releases this week, the fantastic roguelike adventure The Flame and the Flood was released on the Xbox One, as well as having left early access on Steam to be released on Mac and Windows. Designed by the Molasses Flood, a team of developers who previously worked on such games as BioShock, Halo, and the Rock Band franchises, The Flame in the Flood is a beautiful post-apocalyptic game. Excuse me, it describes itself as post-societal, which is significantly classier. In The Flame in the Flood, you play as a woman named Scout, riding a raft down a raging river, making stops at little islands to scavenge for food. You take shelter, and sometimes meet some of the few strange characters still alive in this post-societal America. I've been playing The Flame in the Flood all week, and I got to enjoy some of the game's campaign mode, and must say that The Flame in the Flood is a beautiful work of interactive art with a lot of character. This character mostly shines through in the game's environments and art, which looks a little like a Studio Leica stop-motion film at times. I'm not surprised that the game excels at environmental storytelling. After all, the art director of BioShock took the lead on it. On the whole, I've had a lot of fun with Flame in the Flood, and can recommend it if you're looking for a survival game with its own character and a strong, unique setting. You can check out my full review of Flame in the Flood at blackmanandrobin.com. Also released on Steam this week is the game Factorial, a strategy game about building and maintaining factories. In development since 2012, the game's gotten fantastic reception from players. It's in early access right now, but has gotten overwhelmingly positive reviews already. The developer sent me a copy of the game, and I intend to talk more about it, so be sure to stick around for that. There's something very diesel punk and practical about the aesthetic. I don't want to call Factorio an ugly game, but it does seem to do a very good job at depicting an ugly industrial world. I have to say, the look of the game really has my attention. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Is tower defense more your thing? Not to worry, we've got you covered with Space Jacked, which has just been released on Steam for Mac, Windows, and Linux. In Space Jacked, you play as the space technician Dave. Your colleagues keep getting kidnapped by aliens, and it's up to you to help them. You build turrets, reverse gravity, and place teleporters to fight off the alien menace. The game has a rather cute aesthetic, and it looks like a lot of fun. In virtual reality news this week, the Mobile World Congress was held in Barcelona. It's like CES, but focused on mobile devices, and during the show, LG showed off the 360 VR, their own virtual reality headset for use with the upcoming LG G5. It's a lightweight mid-range headset, and it has dual screens boasting a 1080 resolution, putting it ahead of the Samsung Gear VR. It maintains a weight of 180 grams by plugging into your phone by a USB-C wire instead of having your phone slip inside the system. On paper, this is a brilliant idea, but in practice, the reports I've been hearing from tech reviewers are that the device has issues with light leaking in through where you're staring in, and there were serious issues with lag, and the device really isn't the friendliest for users with glasses. That said, the device shown off at the Mobile World Congress was a prototype, so we'll be keeping an eye on it. Hopefully the finished version improves. Samsung, meanwhile, introduced their upcoming Galaxy S7 and S7 Edge smartphones, and while the phones have cool features such as water resistance, one accessory that Samsung's pushing hard is their Gear VR system, a virtual reality headset that you pop your phone into. Pre-ordering a Galaxy S7 or S7 Edge will get you a free headset bundled in with the phone. You may want to consider this if you're in the market for a new phone and would like to try out entry-level VR. This week, there was a bit of confusion regarding IBM's announcement of a Sword Art Online-themed VR game. Specifically, it's not really the VR MMORPG that everybody's been dreaming of. For a bit of background, the show Sword Art Online is based on the light novel series of the same name by Reki Kawahara about an advanced virtual reality MMORPG that beams data right into your brain. In the story, Sword Art Online was a great game in beta, but at launch, nobody was able to log out, and if people died in the game, their headsets would fry their brains, rendering them truly dead. It sounds like some real fun, right? Perfect way to convince people to adopt virtual reality, so what's going on at IBM? Well, this week they announced Sword Art Online The Beginning, and they're inviting people in Japan to come play the game's alpha. It is a virtual reality game, and that's neat, but some confusion happened between translation. Apparently, it'll just be a sort of demo involving the world of Sword Art Online and IBM's Watson, the computer that famously beat Ken Jennings at Jeopardy! It's not actually a game going into alpha, but a bit of spin-off fiction set in Sword Art Online's world. There's a good explanation of what exactly this is over at roadtovr.com by Ben Lang, but the skinny of it is that a real Sword Art Online VR MMORPG probably won't exist for a very long time. That said, the demo may one day be released to the public. As per a report at SlashGear, it'll be on both the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. Speaking of the HTC Vive, a price was announced for the device this week. $799. Pre-orders for the Vive open up on February 29, 2016, and the units ship on April 1st, 2016. In case you've been out of the loop, the HTC Vive is the virtual reality headset developed by Valve and HTC. While it costs $200 more than the competition, the Oculus Rift, it also comes with some neat features, such as a camera in front to let you experience VR games while walking, without knocking things over. It also employs the Lighthouse system for setting up VR in an entire room. Pre-ordering the HTC Vive will net you a couple games, namely Job Simulator and Fantastic Contraption. Do you think it's worth getting over the Oculus Rift? Let us know. Regarding a VR game that actually will exist, the game Dragonfront is coming to the Oculus Rift and it looks interesting. It's not totally unique, but interesting. Essentially, it's a virtual reality version of the trading card game Hearthstone, and it's in development by High Voltage Software. There's no release date yet for Dragonfront, but it is set to be released this year for the Oculus Rift. Personally, I wish that somebody would go to the trouble of copying my favorite card game, Scrolls, but that's another conversation. Looking for a good deal on games? Look no further than the Humble Bundle, which returned this week with the Humble Indie Bundle 16. This is quite a bundle. In the Pay What You Want tier is Retro City Rampage DX, an open-world game in which you're a jerk. It sounds familiar, but wait for it, it's retro-styled. Then there's the creepy Outlast, set in a Colorado mental asylum, and then there's the adorable Never Alone, a co-op puzzle platformer in which you play as a girl and a fox in the Arctic. If you beat the average price paid, you'll also get the real-time strategy SWAT game Door Kickers, and the gorgeous puzzle platformer Trine Free. Finally, if you beat the average by $2 or more, you'll also get Else Heart.Break, an adventure game about a hacker and his relationships in the city of Dorisburg. You'll also get the fantastic roguelike Sunless Sea, which is a rather Lovecraft-inspired game, and it's making its Linux debut in this Humble Bundle. All of the games in this bundle are available on Mac, Windows, and Linux. Additionally, Door Kickers is available on Android. Personally, I can vouch for Never Alone. While the platforming is really just average, it's a lot more fun when you play in co-op mode. Additionally, the setting of Never Alone is fantastic and kind of unusual for a video game. It's set in Alaska and tells tales of the Inupiat people. Never Alone was developed in conjunction with the Alaska Native community and features some cool documentary footage about their lives, culture, and stories. It's one of the few educational games to be developed in recent years that's really worth playing. You can check out this bundle at humblebundle.com. One of Frozen Byte's games, Trine Free, is in that Humble Bundle, but that's not all the news that the developer managed to make this week. They also announced a demo event for their stealth game, Chadwin. For a few days, they opened up access to the demo. The more players make it through the demo, the lower the launch price of Chadwin at launch. Interestingly, like in Superhot, time in Chadwin stands still when you're not moving. Also interesting is that you can rewind time to change your past and present actions. If you're watching this before February 29th, you still have time to try your hand at the game and drop its launch price. You can get the demo from Chadwin.com. If you own a PlayStation 4 or Vita and you've been hoping for more challenging platformers on your system, great news! Risk of Rain is coming to your platform. Announced this week, we don't have a release date for this fantastic roguelike game quite yet, but it's one worth keeping an eye out for. It's already a hit on Mac, Windows, and Linux. In Risk of Rain, you've crash-landed on a mysterious planet filled with deadly creatures. You have to fight them off in order to get back home. The PlayStation 4 and Vita versions of this platformer will have cross-platform play with one another. The game supports 4-player co-op both locally and online. If you get the chance, check out Risk of Rain. That's not the only cool game to be announced for PlayStation 4 this week. Elephantopia's great tower defense game McBoyd will be coming to the PlayStation 4 on March 1st. In case you've not heard of it before, McBoyd is a game in which you play as a robotic strawberry farmer growing your crops on another planet. You constantly come under attack by vicious alien worms and must defend yourself, your spaceship, and your precious strawberries with lasers. This is a game I've followed and been a fan of for a long time. I love the game's premise, sense of humor, and fantastic cel-shaded art style. If you ever wished that Pikmin was a more chaotic game with a bit less backtracking and a lot more tower defense, you absolutely must check out McBoyd. McBoyd is also available on Mac, Windows, and Linux. A first trailer has been released for The Descendant, a post-apocalyptic adventure game coming out this spring. Set in the near future, the Earth's been damaged, badly, by climate change, and a mass extinction event has made the world unlivable. To preserve humanity, the government cryogenically suspended people in underground bunkers. You've woken up centuries later and you're looking for survivors and what to do next.
Admit it. This feels like you're going home. Doesn't it?
A rather haunting trailer has been released for The Church in the Darkness. Set in the 1970s and inspired by historical events, it's a game in which you're infiltrating a cult just to see if your nephew's alright. On the surface, everything seems okay. The cult has established what they call Freedom Town in a jungle in South America, but you soon realize that something is terribly, horribly wrong. The game is set to be released in 2017 for Mac, Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One.
That's why we had to leave their sick country.
So we came here, to South America, to the jungle, to isolate ourselves, to purify our community. But still they hate us, because our success proves that their society is wrong, that their system is cruel, that their way is doomed.
So they are coming for us. They will infiltrate us. They will sabotage us. They will try to kidnap our people.
But we are ready. We take up arms, and we will have no mercy for anyone that violates our home. Attacking us will just show the world how corrupt they are.
So let them call us a cult, because we stand firm for what we believe.
We have God on our side, and we will not let them take a single one of us alive.
Well, that's about it for this week's game news. Before we wrap up, however, remember that giveaway we mentioned earlier? Well, entry is super easy. To enter, all you have to do is retweet the pinned tweet at the top of the Blackman and Robin Twitter account, and, of course, be sure to follow us on Twitter. This Steam key will unlock the games Gunstar Heroes, Renegade Ops, and Viking Battle for Asgard. By following, you'll get all the latest game news, reviews, previews, and interviews. If you follow me at Jordan_Cameron, you'll hear my own views. Don't forget to watch the latest episode of the Blackman and Robin Irregular Game Show on where virtual reality is heading in 2016.